Hello everybody, welcome back to the workshop and my office. So in this video, we are going to be taking a look at a blacksmith budget, or more importantly, how I budget as a blacksmith, and I lay out things like cost of jobs, cost of materials, cost of labor, stuff like that. This is going to be part of my business of blacksmithing playlist series that we've been doing for the last, 6 years or so here on YouTube. So be sure to check out that playlist. I'll have that linked up down below. Okay, blacksmith budget. What do I mean by that? Well, this is mostly going to apply to people who are making a living from blacksmithing, or that is going to attempt to make a living or a self-supporting hobby out of it. So that means you're going to actually be making some sales. Now, if you're just doing it purely for the fun or the enjoyment, you have a regular day job, a 9 to 5 somewhere else, and this is just like your kickback and relax time, just like no different than if you were a gamer or you liked spending the weekend out on a boat. If that was the case, if for you in your particular situation, a lot of the rest of this won't really apply, because in that case, most likely you should have in your regular personal budget a line item that says blacksmithing. And so therefore that's just like a big a catch-all, so to speak, for your money, and you don't have to really worry about what you're making profit or losses wise. Okay, so the first step in creating a budget for a blacksmithing business is you need to identify what it is that you're going to need to have for operating capital amongst a month to be able to run your business. So what that means is there's going to be categories, right? In my budget sheet, there are categories. I have reoccurring bills that always come up. Just like for me, for instance, the internet bill, since I'm online, that's part of it. So that comes up. If I do a lot of stuff through social media, all that other stuff, my phone comes out of that budget. My fuel cost to go get materials, my material cost itself, the fuels that I'm using, or the consumables in the shop. All of those are individual line items, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You can add as much as you want, or you can keep it as basic as you want, but you do want to have your your head categories of what you need. I do like to have a business savings as well, so this way I can prep for the future. And then I also like having a spendable, or that's the final amount after all of your expenses are paid, and that spendable is what is allows you to spend out every month. Part of that cost is how much you need to live on. That's all part of that expenses or overhead of the business. So that's first step number one. This really shouldn't take you but a half hour maybe to sit down and jot down exactly what it is in your particular situation that you're going to have on a monthly reoccurring basis. And that way you can appropriately budget for that month all of your expenditures less your profit gives you what you'll have in a remainder or a spendable amount that you can then use to make the business go further in the future. Now, this may seem complicated at first to do, but be assured it's really not very complicated to do. It can get a little overwhelming. If you could see what my budget sheet looks like, it's like, whoa. You can get lost down that rabbit hole pretty darn quick, because we have multiple different income streams that are coming in, and we have plenty of going out as well, bunches of expenditures and bills. But let's just break it down for, say, your basic, you're just getting started in it. The main things that you need to take and cover is you need to cover your space, your shop space, right? So if you're renting from somewhere, that's going to be on there. Your electric, that you're going to run your electric bill up, that's going to be part of it. Your heating bill or cooling bill, based upon whether the shop space is conditioned or you need to condition it, depending on your particular locale in the area. That is all, let's call that the shop bills, right? Those are all fixed things that are most likely going to cost the same amount every single month. Now, this is, again, for somebody who's just getting started. So you're just getting started into it, brand new, and you've got this fledgling little business. The second thing that will be coming along is your materials, okay? So you're going to have a materials list, and what I mean by materials, the materials are your raw steel, your product, your metal, your copper, whatever metals or things that you're forging or cutting up and welding or whatever. That is your material fund, so you need to create a line item for that. It's kind of a catch-all, but it's just materials, but it's very important that you separate that out from your consumables fund. Your consumables fund that you need to write out as a line item is for consumables. That's grinding discs, grinding belts, that's welding wire, bottle gas, that is things that you're going to have as far as drill bits, that sort of thing, et cetera, et cetera. Those are all around your consumables fund. Then you're going to have, as a blacksmith, you're going to have a fuel fund, and that is your forging fuel. Whether you're using charcoal, you're using coal, you're using coke, you're using propane, you're using any other mixture of anything, that is your fuel fund that you're going to have to pay into, especially if you're buying coal or coke by the ton. If you get into it long enough in the business, it really sucks to have a low month and not have enough coal saved back for. So that's going to be the next part that you have to save up for. Same thing for the gas as well. You'll want to make sure that that fund is, you always take an account of how long you've run off your propane tanks or how long you run off your coal pile and how much you burn through roughly a week, a month, a year. So that way you can constantly be feeding stuff back into that fund. Now let's talk about everyone's favorite word, taxes. You need to set aside a certain amount of money for taxes and fees. So that's going to be another fund. In fact, those will probably be two separate funds. Fees are anything where you're going through somebody's website to sell, or you're paying commissions or whatever to maybe some art supply place. You're paying a certain amount off the top. You need to factor that in to your budget. If you're going to have a delayed fee, like if you're selling on Etsy or eBay or Amazon, they don't take their fee. A lot of times they don't take their fees right out up front. It varies on the platform. They might take out their fees once you reach a certain fee threshold, and you need to make sure that you have the income sitting there in order to be able to cover your fees. Taxes, that's going to be at the end of the year. And again, I'm not a tax professional, nor am I an accountant. This is just basic general business advice. Go get professional legal advice when it comes to your actual financials on that. Don't trust some weirdo of the internet. So now that you've got all that, this brings us down to our final fund, and this is the amount that you're going to be paying yourself, because you need to earn something out of this to make it worthwhile. This needs to go back to paying for your time that you're not spending with your wife and your kids or your husband and kids and whatever, or going out and having a good time with your friends. You need to pay yourself something for that time. So that is where your wage comes in. You can decide whatever that may be, whatever makes you happy. If that needs to be $30 an hour, or you need to make take it out of the hourly rate. Let's just say you want to make $1,000 a month or whatever from this endeavor, and that's what you need, or maybe you need to make $2,000 or whatever it may be. That all goes on your, basically your pay. That is your cost for yourself, your time, your labor, if you will. There's multiple ways that you can actually mention it on your fund. I'm not going to tell you how to take and do that. Again, this is a very basic budget. You can split it out and go as deep dive into little tiny fractured categories as you like, or you can keep it fairly basic if you're just doing basic things. But that's very important, to pay yourself something. All right, now for the last fund. That is your spendable. That is the result of all the money that's come in minus all of your expenditures equals your spendable amount. Now, what is that for? Is that for you to just go hog wild and do whatever you want with? Well, it can be if you want it to go that way. But a smarter way of using that income is, think of that as like your investment back into your business. That's a good way of telling how well your growth is going. What is that spendable amount, or that end amount that you can use. That end amount of spendable, you can choose to put that in various different categories. Maybe you had a category that didn't quite hit right. You thought your electric bill, it has been steady at $100 a month, and now the electric bill went up to $150. Well, you might have to take an extra $50 out of your spendable to take and cover that electric bill, so this way you don't go into the negative into that fund. So that is how I do a basic blacksmithing budget, and it works. The rest, everything works out around that. You can talk about capturing income all day long, but if you don't appropriately put it in, its various categories and give that money a name, you fall into the trap of getting, say, $10,000 on a rail job, and you go out and buy a $10,000 power hammer, but yet you still need to spend $2,500 in steel, and you need to spend, $5,000 in nuts and bolts and fittings and who knows what else, right? And then you should have only actually had $3,000 worth of play money, but instead you spent it all, right? You decided to take and spend it all beforehand because he's like, whoa, I got 10 grand. 10 grand's in the bank. I got 10 grand now to play with. Well, again, you don't, right? You need to find out what those overhead costs are and put that all down. Now, that spendable amount that you have, you can reinvest that in the business, and that is very handy to do. You can also use that to do things like savings. So after everything's said and done, you've got all your expenses taken care of. My suggestion is take that spendable. I take 20% of whatever my spendable is, and I throw it back into savings or capital, company capital that I can then use at a later date to buy tools, equipment, gear, fix things, work on things, stuff like that. So that's my suggestion for that particular fund. Okay, so I know that this video is a bit long-winded, but I do want to stress the importance of getting a good solid budget in when you're starting your business, or if you've already started one and you find out that you're just not getting that amount of money at the end of the month, or you're struggling to pay your bills. It is very important that you have a budget and a business plan written up when you're trying to take and run a business. You can't just treat things as your own play money and the blacksmithing thing as a piggy bank. The reason why this is so crucial and so important, and why I am making a video about this, is there are so many smiths out there that fail at the business side of the blacksmithing. They are wonderful smiths, but they can't turn an income from it because they do not have an appropriate budget set up. Appropriate budget is not fun, it's not sexy, it's boring. It is boring going over numbers and watching everything you worked for on a big job that you might have got. It doesn't matter whether it was $100 is a big job to you or $100,000. It is not fun watching that getting divided in about, a million different categories, and your end at the end of it is like, yeah, okay, cool, bro, you got like $50 to work off of. It's not fun. It's not exciting. But it's the way that it has to be in order for you to progress as a smith. I have seen a lot of blacksmith businesses in the last decade plus that I've been doing this now go under. They started, they had a really great concept, they had really great sales, and out of nowheresville, they just like, hey, I can't pay my bills, I can't pay my rent, I can't do this, it's over. And they fold. And they're selling off all their equipment, and it just breaks my heart to see blacksmiths do that, because if they were to have been, and I don't want to assume to know what their position was or what happened with them, but I do understand that a lot of people struggle with the concept of budgeting. And when you're budgeting for a business, you're budgeting for month to month. That's maximum. Usually it's quarter to quarter you're taking and budgeting out for. You need to have that long game mindset about things, whether it's buying tools and equipment, whether it's taking and fixing shop, whether it's doing whatever it may be. You need to have that long vision for yourself and a game plan and stick to it. I mean, pay that brass tacks and stick to your budget, stick to your guns, and don't allow yourself to go over the till. I've done it many of times, and in fact, in the last 14 plus years as the recording of this video that I've been doing forging, I have thought about closing my doors 4 times. 4 separate times it's gotten that tight because I let myself get outside of my budget. And so I just know that some of these people, there are circumstances outside people's control. I get that. But I understand that a lot of these people went under specifically because they did not have their finances straight, because they weren't good at the bookkeeping side of things, and they just kind of let it go. You know, they get a big job, and next post you see them buy a big power hammer. Again, I'm not out there to tell them how to do their business, but those companies aren't around now. They failed. They went under, and it's really truly sad is what it is. With the Forged and Fire that has come around, and I know most people have probably jumped off at this point, but those of my dedicated fans that are still here, thank you. Say I made it if you made it to this point in the video. With the advent of Forged and Fire, you're going to see a lot more of this as well. The fad on Forged and Fire is kind of coming to a little bit of a close. It's coming to a bit of a head, so you're going to start seeing people who jumped in thinking that they were going to be master knife makers in the blink of an eye, and Damascus makers, and yada, 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 and they couldn't hold the, you know, they might have even been talented, but you're going to see that they're failing businesses, and you're going to see whole shops come up for sale. And what that is that somebody who was not able to take in, grow slowly, and, you know, the hare always, you know, the tortoise wins the race. Slow and steady wins the race, right, at the end. So you don't want to gain and get super famous and popular and all this other stuff before you're ready. You don't want to take and have tens of thousands of orders and then nothing for the next 20 years. You need to take time in your business to develop your skills, and develop products, and develop services that will help your business grow long, long into the future. It's absolutely crucial that you do that, and you also spot the areas where you're weak in the certain odd items that are not worth carrying forward. Okay, so that's enough for this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If it's your first time here and you like this content, subscribe, check the bell for all notifications, all that good stuff. Thank you to my long-term channel members for your subscriptions, and always for the support and being here. Some notes that I want to leave you with, and some final thoughts here, is this is meant to be an encouragement to you on a blacksmithing budget, and it's also kind of words of caution and wisdom, is that, you know, you need to get started on a budget right away at the very start of your business and come up with an actionable plan. And I hope this encourages you to do so. It's not a big, crazy, scary thing. You just need to outline exactly what it is that you need in your business and what your reoccurring bills are going to be. And that way you can put back a certain amount of money towards that every single month to make sure that all of your overhead costs get paid. With that being said, don't be shocked that your initial amount that you've got to bring home or for you to pay yourself isn't high. Don't be shocked if you have 0 in the spendable category, or you have 0 in the payable to yourself category. Don't be shocked when you're first getting started. It takes time to build up some steam around the business and to take and grow out, to grow out of that stage. That's your initial stage of getting started. Most companies have startup costs. In fact, lots of people take on hoop loads of debt and to get into business, and I definitely don't recommend that, especially when it comes to forging. You want to stay as debt-free into it as possible. But with that being said, this is really meant to be an encouragement video, and I hope it did encourage you. It is possible. It is completely possible to make a full-time living at blacksmithing. You don't have to be internet famous. That helps, but you don't have to be that. You don't have to be some sort of minor celeb. You don't need to, be the best maker out there in the world or the best blacksmith out there in the world to be able to turn a full-time income doing this great craft. And so that is my advice to you. Get out there, get started, get budgeted right, and you will be successful. So that's it. God bless, and we'll catch you on the next one. Thanks for watching.